What's up? Jason Gaddis here. Welcome back to the Smart Couple Podcast, episode 124. How are you today, tonight, this morning? Yeah, all over the world you guys are, and grateful to have you here with me. If you're new, this podcast is all about personal growth and development through intimacy, through relationship. You know, some people are into meditation, growing through meditation, growing through yoga, growing through being an entrepreneur, growing through some other, physical fitness or something. This podcast is about growing through relationship. We use our partner and all our relations to develop ourselves more fully and become who we are more fully. That's what we are about here at the podcast. And if you're returning, welcome back. Good to have your ear again. And I am, gotta say, guys, I am grateful right now. You'll notice I'm a little nasally, however. I'm fighting off a little cold that went through our house, and I'm on the mend. So I may cough or something soon. I'll let you know. I'll try not to do that in your ear. But I'm really grateful because it's the final week of the relationship school's first year, and I'm about to graduate about 20 or so people from our first ever Deep Psychology of Intimate Relationships course. I'm also graduating a few people that have been apprentices training with me in the art of how to help other people with their relationship problems. They're training to be relationship coaches. And a few of those folks are going to receive their certificate as a level 1 relationship coach. And just a couple days, they're flying out here. So I am pumped for a celebratory weekend. These guys have been through it. Imagine a modern day hero's journey where you had to face yourself. And you did it with like-hearted, like-minded people. And you fell apart, you came back together, you had inspirational moments, you had a lot of triggering moments, and you faced more of yourself and you learned more fully how to do this thing called relationship with one other person. So remember, this was the class that I didn't get in high school or college that I wish I would have. So I designed this course as like the dream class on everything you want to know about relationships and how they work. So we're finishing in just a couple days. And man, I know I'm going to be emotional. It's going to be intense for me. And I'm proud of myself for somehow pulling this off. And proud of all of these people for hanging in there and trusting me. And wow, we've been through it and we're stronger for it. So just to all you relationship schoolers, I just love you guys and appreciate who you are. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple days. And to anyone else that's interested in the relationship school, yeah, we are taking pre-applications. I have not officially launched this course yet. All right, but if you're, for whatever reason, a little eager to get in there, you can go to jasongaddis.com/the-relationship-school and fill out an application. And and we'll consider that. And then we are going to do a more formal launch soon. So stay tuned for that. And we'd love to see you out here in Colorado. There's 2 live weekends. It's a 9-month training, and it should be a lot of fun. And I guarantee you're going to become one party of a smart couple if you do this training, because you're just going to be that much more equipped, right? The only reason you feel bad about your performance or behavior in a relationship is because you're expecting yourself to be good at something you never learned, right? Or you have some fantasy that they're not supposed to be challenging. And if you're in that game and you're in that camp, then you're going to suffer quite a bit. So come learn. Come get that class you never got, all right? Okay, transitioning here to the actual show. In this episode, we're going to talk about men and sex once again. And we're going to zero in on the male genitalia, to be technical, specifically the erection or lack thereof in men. That's right. Erectile dysfunction, as it's called, afflicts more than 30 million men around the world who have been prescribed Viagra. Okay, they've gotten some kind of script for Viagra because they can't get it up or they lose their erection in the bedroom. And if you're a guy who's dealt with this, it's incredibly shameful experience and humiliating, right? Especially if you think you're supposed to be hard all the time or instantaneously, and it's just supposed to come naturally for you. And it does for some men. But for those of us that are sensitive and we get in our heads about it and we get a little scared, the erection thing is complicated. So this episode is all about the cock and the erection and losing erections. Okay, so it's great for women who are with a guy who's lost an erection before. This is going to be very educational for you. If you're currently with a guy who this is happening with, you're going to want to tune in because you're going to get a whole reframe on this thing and a more subtle way to deal with this that doesn't require a script from a doctor. It doesn't require you supporting the big pharma companies, which, by the way, Viagra, I think last year their first year, Viagra made $1 billion in profits, okay? So the pharmaceutical companies are profiting big time off guys' ineptitude and insecurity and fear. And guys who want shortcuts will pay money, a lot of money, to get a hard-on and not have to think about it, not have to worry, right, that they're going to lose their wood. And it's understandable, guys, okay, if you've taken Viagra or if you've thought about Viagra, I get it because I've lost my erection many times. And that feeling in the bedroom when you're supposedly turned on and everybody's rip-roaring ready to go and you can't perform and you can't get in there and you can't deliver the goods and satisfy a woman, that's really confronting, right? Talk about feeling bad and ashamed. That's a pretty dark place. So I can relate because I've been there, and I write about this openly. Okay, I wrote a blog post a couple years ago, and I'll include that in the show notes, called "The Root Cause of Erectile Dysfunction," and you should definitely check that out because, if you're listening to me here, you understand that I'm into like what's the intelligent, common sense approach here. Okay, I don't no frills, no bells and whistles, and definitely no medication. How do I deal with my cock not being hard or losing its mojo? How the hell do I deal with that? Well, that was the question I was confronted with years ago when I started losing my erection. Now, it happened early on in some of my relationships in my 20s, and I kind of just, I wasn't dating a woman long enough to have to face that in myself. I would just sort of move on. I didn't talk about it with anyone. I never told my male friends. I definitely didn't tell the women I was dating. I just sort of we both pretended like it wasn't happening. And I sort of just turned over, and then a decade went by and once I got hooked up in a primary relationship longer than a couple of months, it would rear its head, metaphorically here, occasionally, or hide its head. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. Regardless, I would lose my erection from time to time. Now, it didn't happen all the time. It happened once in a while, and it wasn't predictable. It was like I could be a rock star, or in my version of a rock star, doing well sexually for a few months, and then all of a sudden, boom, I would lose my erection. And then it would happen again and again and again for a period of time, and then I'd be like, what the hell? Finally, at this point, I had been to therapy. I was comfortable enough to talk openly about it. I was in a men's group at the time. I told my men's group all about it. I told my therapist about it, and I began to work on it. My therapist, though, couldn't really help me with it a whole lot. So I hired an expert, right? A dude who deals with this kind of shit all the time, every day. And that man was David Cates, who I've cited a lot in my past articles. He was a big mentor of mine for a number of years. And he walked me through some many, many dark times. He helped me get through some really painful moments in my life. And one of the things that catapulted me into kind of a midlife crisis, if you will, was this whole thing of losing my erection and not satisfying my woman, and all the feelings that brought up for me. So David, through the work with David, and then eventually Christiane Pelmus, who I featured on the podcast, I think in episode 3, David was on, I believe, episode 16. And through David and Christiane's help, I eventually figured this thing out. And my wife's help. My wife was a tremendous help to me as well. And man, I had to face some demons and I had to face some shit. So I'm going to share with you some of the things I've learned, all right, about this, because this doesn't happen for me anymore. And if and when it does, because it may, I know what to do. And I'm going to teach you just some basics on how to deal. Okay, so this is definitely for you guys if this has happened to you and you want to take the natural approach and you don't want to be on some kind of pharmaceutical drug that has all kinds of side effects for the rest of your life. I think there's a better solution for you, and I'm going to give that to you right now. Okay, if you want a deeper dive, of course, read the blog post, go to jasongaddis.com/ed if you want to invest in my small mini course on this where I walk you through exactly what to do. Okay, this is going to be a very condensed version of that. Okay, the first thing that you've got to understand is the term erectile dysfunction really doesn't do this whole problem justice. Dysfunction means that it's not working. Dysfunction, not functioning, right? But that's a complete misnomer. It's labeled improperly. So I call this erectile intelligence because your cock is actually doing its job. It's functioning perfectly. It's not functioning how you want it to. Yep, I got that. But it's functioning perfectly. It's giving you the feedback that you need to pay attention to. Period. So you've got to start with this reframe. It's not a dysfunction. It's intelligence and it's feedback. Just like the shame that follows it. Shame is also just feedback. It's just energy moving through your body. It's not a big deal. I get that it doesn't feel good. Yeah, okay, you got me there. But so what, right? I'm training warriors to be able to sit in the fire of their shame and not run away, shut down, or blame someone else, like your woman. And it's not about your woman. Okay, you losing your erection has nothing to do with her. Okay, that's another thing that's like a complete bullshit excuse, really, right? It's not your woman, okay? This has to do with your psychology. And a lot of people will poo-poo this whole psychology thing, mostly because psychology is one of those sciences that's not really, it's very hard to be a science. It's very hard to pin it down because it's very hard to measure. So people don't like, psychology gets a lot of critics because it's like, yeah, you know, kind of starts to sound fluffy or new agey or something. But I'm telling you, my ability to get over this issue and quote, fix this issue for me was 100% psychology. Yes, there's some physiology going on. Yes, there's a connection between psychology and physiology. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, this is my mind. All right. It's the mind-body split, and what we're going to do today is just bridge that gap, okay? Because the mind and body are connected, contrary to early Western medicine, okay? They're very much one and the same. All right, let's just review the size of the problem. This problem is vast, okay? Supposedly 30 million men, according to, I think, a 2015 study, are taking Viagra. My guess is it's now 100 million. Viagra is also losing its patent, so the brand is no longer going to be the source. All right, there's a couple out there now, but eventually this is going to be a generic drug that is a lot cheaper and anyone can take. And to me, that would be a good thing for some conventional guy who's like, sweet, I just want to fix this problem. I don't want to think about it. But it does nothing to solve the actual problem. Okay, it's not getting to the root of the problem. It's just, again, medication. It's a Band-Aid that you're going to have to keep using the rest of your life. So I don't like medication as a solution here. Now, I should also make a disclaimer here. And yes, sometimes, I'm going to say 1 out of 10 times, maybe 1 out of 100 times, maybe 1 out of 1,000. I don't really know. I'm just making numbers up here. But really rarely does some guy have a medical condition that needs Like the reason he's losing his erection is because he needs medical attention because there's like a tumor growing or there's some weird imbalance in the body that trained professionals need to deal with around that kind of stuff. So I think it's worth your while to, if you're very concerned and you've tried the things I'm about to teach you and they don't work, then get medical attention and see if you can, maybe there's another problem that's going on, all right? And I'm still going to argue that the vast majority of the time, it's a psychophysiological issue. That's right, a mind-body issue that's going on that can be resolved. The basic physiology here is that when you're losing your erection, blood is flowing out of the penis, right? It's leaving the building, so to speak. And so you go soft. And we have to ask, well, why is that happening? Why is that happening? Well, some studies will say it's because of your diet, because you're not exercising, because of your age, so on and so forth. And all those may have some validity to it. But there's another thing going on here that's more subtle that has to do with your autonomic nervous system. And I want you to pretend for a minute that you're scared in the bedroom and below your diaphragm basically shuts down, right? This is what Stephen Porges talked about in a podcast recently on the dorsal vagus nerve. And the way to bring that back online is through social engagement, the social engagement system. But the older part of your nervous system goes offline or shuts down when you're perceiving on a neuroceptive level some kind of threat. So I'm here to assert that something like that is going on. I'll have to talk to Stephen about this next time. And it's subtle and it happens very fast. And so your cock basically, this part of your body is going offline because you're in some kind of fear response, okay? I want you to consider that as a strong possibility here. So this part of you goes offline and the blood goes elsewhere, all right, to basically take care of itself. So how's that dysfunction? It's not, all right? And part of what starts to happen when a guy loses his erection, if this is you, you're basically tracking your partner more than yourself. You're in some kind of fantasy, subordinating to a fantasy of who you think you should be, and you're not, it's disjointed, you're not totally living up to that fantasy, right? I'm supposed to be a rock star, a porn star, and it's not happening. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Okay, that's a fantasy you're in. You actually can't be that. You need to be yourself. And then the third thing is when this happens, you immediately try to figure it out. Okay, you go into your head, you try harder, you pretend like it's not going on, you try to mask it so that she doesn't notice, although that's almost impossible, right, women? You kind of notice when a guy's losing his erection. I think it's pretty obvious. And you're trying to figure it out, right? And that's what we do anytime we're afraid, in general, we go into our head, right? Now, the moment you lose your erection and any one of these three things happens, you've lost the connection to yourself and to your partner. And now you're disconnected, and it's going to be hard to get it back if you keep trying to override your nervous system. So I don't recommend that approach. Trust me, I tried for a few years because I'm stubborn. Tried to hide it. I tried to posture. I tried to do all kinds of things. I went into my shame. I felt my shame. I collapsed into my shame. I went into the shame swamp. I did all kinds of shit that basically didn't work. All right. And it wasn't really until I slowed down and trusted my cock that things began to change. So, okay, first thing, remember, we're reframing this as intelligence, erectile intelligence. And you're going to start trusting your cock and stop making your cock wrong or bad. When you do that, you're going to want to go get Viagra or some medication to objectify your cock and make it work, like some toy or some external machine or something. It's not that. It's actually a part of who you are, all right? And it's feeling unsafe. It's feeling scared. And some part of you is not in relationship to that, and you disconnect and you pop in your head, your other head, right? So that's a little bit about what's going on. So, and that's the beginnings of what to do about it, is you got to have the mindset to trust your cock. Everything is working fine. I just need to listen and respect the cock and the feedback. Even though another part of me wants to not drop her and not have this whole thing turn into a shit show and have to be humiliated here. I get it. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for myself. But sometimes that's what's required for you to pay attention, right? You need that much pain to start to listen, okay? So number 1, trust your cock. Number 2, relax, right? Freaking out is going to do nothing. So see if you can relax. And 3, take responsibility for what's happening. Rather than hide, posture, pretend like it's not going on, just own that this is happening to me, okay? And you're going to want to have the attitude to learn from this experience. So you want to face your shame. You want to feel your shame. It doesn't mean collapse into your shame. It just means keep your spine erect, okay? Maybe your cock is soft, but your spine can be erect, and you don't need to collapse into your shame, but just feel your shame. Stand tall and feel your shame like an adult, right? And just close your eyes. You might want to put your hand on your heart, your hand on your belly, grab your partner's hand and say, honey, will you hold my hand for a minute? I just need to feel this wave of shame. I'm cool. I just got to feel this for a minute. Whew, okay, that was intense. Got it. All right. Obviously, you're going to want to go get help. There may be a historical component for you. So, for example, something I uncovered when I started doing some sexuality work was that I had a very shameful, humiliating experience where I was taken advantage of sexually when I was about 10 years old. And I have since worked through that. And it's a possibility that some of you have had some kind of early sexual trauma. Quick side note, not so fun fact, is that researchers have found that 1 in 6 men have been either sexually abused or molested before the age of 18. Right, so this affects a lot of men. And mine was a single incident, and it happened with a cousin, and it was pretty intense. And, it changed the course of my life for sure. And it had some positive sides to it as well, because through the healing work that I've done, I saw how that there was actually some results of that came that were extremely, extremely beneficial to me. Number 1 being that I decided to have my back from there on out around my sex life. And I did. Only when I betrayed myself, but no one else betrayed me after that. It was done. One time was like all I needed to be like, okay, I'm not going to let that happen again. So if you have history there, if you have a trauma, a sexual trauma, or a series of traumas, you're going to obviously want to deal with that. And one of the best ways to deal with that is in an adult relationship. Honey, I'm scared. All my past memories are coming up right now. There's so much potential power in working through sexual injuries in a safe container of an adult relationship with mutual consent where you're working through sexual challenges towards healing. This is unbelievably powerful, right? And you can do this. That's available to you if you find a safe partner who's just like, yeah, this is part of the dance. Okay, some of us in our sex life, we're not supposed to be porn stars. Our sexual journey is about healing. Okay, it's not about necessarily bliss and ecstasy. It's about healing. And you're going to have moments of bliss, moments of ecstasy, moments of joy and pleasure and fun and safe connection and all that. And sometimes it's challenging as hell. Sometimes it's shameful. Sometimes it's embarrassing. Sometimes it hurts. So I just, want to really encourage you that whatever is going on, and for you men that have erection issues, it's going on for a reason, and it's going on so that you can face it and be in a deeper relationship with yourself, all right? So let's just get that straight, that please have the attitude, okay? If you're listening to the Smart Couple podcast, we are into growth and development. We face our shit, okay? We own up to stuff. We take responsibility for our shame, for losing our erection, for not being moist, for whatever our thing is, we own it and say, yeah, this is going on. Why? So that we can deal with it. If I keep denying it's going on, then I can't deal with it. So stop denying. Admit it's happening, right? It's the first step. Yes, it's happening, at least to yourself, right? Okay, next we can be seen in our weak spot, all right? I had to be seen in my vulnerability, or I chose to be seen. I didn't have to. I could have run out of the room. I could have hid under the covers. But at a certain point, I was like, okay, I'm done hiding. This is going on, honey. And let's face it, right? And again, it wasn't happening every single time. It was once in a while. But you know how those once in a while events, if they're negative, they seem like all the time and they seem humongous? Yeah. It was probably happening 10 or 20% of the time, but that's enough to take me out and, create a big challenge in my relationship. So, time to deal, right? Okay. Now, in the midst of it happening, you want to pause, reconnect to yourself. Pause. Okay. You're going to, at some point, need a reset button if you want to go back to take a risk and try to start up the connection again. But first, you got to pause. It's part of admitting what's happening. Pause. Hold on. I need to take some breaths. Something's going on. Let me tune in. All right. I'm breathing. Okay. Whew. All right. This is uncomfortable. I feel ashamed. All right. Okay. Will you look at me? Good eye contact is great. Body touch is good. Will you put your hand on my leg, honey? Can I put my hand on your leg? Will you hold my hand while we just breathe for a minute? All of these are great pauses. All right. Okay. Reminder to not try to override your cock. Okay. That's you basically saying, cock, you're not intelligent. You're dumb. And I want you to work. And I'm not going to listen to your feedback. That's like you being a shaming father to some little boy part of you, right? That's just not how you want to roll, okay, with your body. You want to honor that part of you. Oh, cock, what's up? You're not up. Oh, you're down. Okay, well, how can I help? Let me listen to you. Let me see if I can get the message here. Just like if I handed you my 8-year-old son, you're not going to kick his ass because he's not, quote, working that day. You're going to be there for him, right? Okay, you want to stay connected to your partner or yourself or both as much as you can. And I get that that's going to be hard for some of you, but that's why the eye contact, hand contact, all of that can help you stay in the room and not dissociate and leave the building entirely. Okay, here's a couple other tips for you. Slow down in general. Okay, that's one of the greatest teachings I've received now about my sex life is slowing down. Yeah, I had to learn that. And I still get reminded that it's important for me to slow down. So slow down. Slowing down does wonders for a sexual connection. Especially if you're sensitive like me, slowing down allows you to stay present and feel the little ripples and the undulations and talk about them if you need to, or come back into connection if you need to, breathe through them if you need to. If you're always trying to go too fast, it's just not. That's kind of the Viagra approach. I got to hurry up and get in there. Women who are with guys who are doing Viagra, I'm guessing, are overriding themselves as well. And, it's a bummer. So I feel like, just again, side note here is we as a culture are very young sexually. Because again, we didn't have a lot of great guidance, just like around our relationships. So it's take it on that you want to learn about sexuality in your adult life and take your time and go slow and have an open relationship, open talking relationship, and that is around these kind of issues. Okay. Another thing, fellas, is we so often want to get to the finish line, which usually means intercourse and then ejaculation. See if you can try on a different agenda and have your agenda be about going slow and staying connected and staying present. And then how about seeing where it goes? All right, it's a little more of a feminine, spacious view and mindset than your goal of getting to intercourse and getting to ejaculation and sowing your seed so that you can keep your DNA alive. Right? That's built in us, are hardwired. And men today, we're not animals, okay? We're not apes alone. We're men. We're grown men. We have a consciousness here. We can think rationally. We have a frontal cortex. So we're being asked to act differently. It's fine to act like an animal some of the time. Go for it if that's cool with your partner. But when you want a strong sexual connection over time, you're going to want to have a range. So animals good, cool. And also incorporate, slow sex, taking your time, heart connection. There's no rush here. We don't even need to have intercourse here. Oh my gosh, it's just fun to explore each other and stay present and touch and kiss, right? And that's going to be hard for some of us guys, okay? That certainly has been hard for me. And as a lot of my guests, pretty much every male guest I've had on the podcast around sexuality, they've basically said that men are stuck in performance. And when you're in performance, you're not in connection, as Destin said, right? So you've got to slow it down and drop this. You need to be someone other than yourself, right? That's buying into some bullshit trap masculine game about what it means to be a man. Oh, being a man means being strong and being tough and being like a porn star. Stop letting other people define how you should be in the bedroom, and instead find out and co-discover it with your partner of who you actually are. And I'm saying one of the great entry points to that is to slow down and get out of the performance game. And finally, remember to reframe this entire issue from dysfunction to intelligence. Please do yourselves a favor and do that, all right? And if you're a woman, invite that perspective in to your relationship. If you have a guy that's losing his erection, help him understand that it's positive feedback. It's feedback that he needs to understand that maybe he's afraid, that maybe he needs to slow down, maybe he's lost connection to himself or you, right? So the cock is a beautiful barometer of connection if you let it, and if you go slow enough to listen to its feedback. All right. Hopefully this was helpful for the men and some of you women out there that know a man like this. Action step. Well, the action step is twofold. It's quite simple. Reframe erectile dysfunction to erectile intelligence from here on out for the rest of your life. And then number 2, trust your cock, men. Trust it. So when you lose your erection, trust it. It's feedback, and it's time to listen. All right, there you have it. Our podcast on erectile dysfunction. Oh, wait, did I say dysfunction? I meant intelligence. That was a pretty thorough investigation. And if you want a much deeper dive, much more thorough, go to jasongaddis.com/ED. And for a small fee, you can invest in my mini class on how I overcame this and what you can do about it yourself. All right. Sans medication and the Western approach of calling this a problem and dysfunction and it's bad and wrong. It's none of that. Okay. It's intelligent. Wake up to the fact that your body is giving you signals all the time that's intelligent. And yes, sometimes it comes in the form of a disease or an illness, and it's trying to help you. Okay. Reframe it. Just try it on. See what that's like. All right. Okay, everybody. Psyched to see all the relationship school peeps this weekend. If you're considering, go to jasongaddis.com/therelationshipschool before we start our launch this summer. And we'll talk soon. Thanks, everyone.